think we all know that live webinars convert better than Evergreen. But what happens when your live webinar doesn't convert well? Well, today I'm going to be diving deep into that specific problem.
My webinar is not converting as well as I want it to. My conversion rates are fairly low.
My name is Yuri. Elkaim. I'm the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, a New York Times bestselling author. And for the past 20 years, I've been helping health experts and coaches build 6, 7, and 8-figure coaching businesses. And today I'm going to be talking with Erin and looking through her pipeline and specifically her webinar and trying to understand why it's not converting the way she wants it to. So if you want to get more quality clients through a little bit more of an evergreen or live format, you're going to want to watch this. All right, guys, welcome. Erin, I'm excited to dive into your webinar today. So for our viewers and listeners, why don't you give everyone a sense of who you are, what you do, and specifically what I can help you with in today's session.
Sure. Thanks, Yuri. My name is Erin Harner. I'm an integrative registered dietitian nutritionist and IBS, gut health, and SIBO coach. And what I'm looking for today is really to understand why my webinar is not converting as well as I want it to. My conversion rates are fairly low, and I don't know if that's the marketing to the webinar, the title of the webinar, how I'm presenting, or the offer at the end. I'm not quite sure where it's going wrong, and I'd love your help.
Okay, so I want to get a bit of context before we'll have a look at the webinar in a moment. When you say it's not working, give me a bit of context of like, what are you looking at to determine that it's not working?
It's not necessarily that it's not working. It's booking a lot fewer calls than I would like it to book.
So right now, just give us a flow. So if this were the webinar page right here, so this is where people can watch it. How are people landing here? Like walk us through what that model looks like.
Yeah, so right now I have 2 different versions, a live version and a recorded version.
Okay.
And for the recorded version, I would like to run ads to it, but I want to make sure that the webinar itself is converting before I run ads to it. Right now, all of the people coming to my masterclass on demand is what I call it, are coming from organic social media traffic or from my email list.
All right. So this is what we have in place right now. We're not, so this is working. Well, I mean, it's live, but like you want to shift it to an evergreen, but you want to make sure the conversions on the live version of it are doing better so you have more confidence to run ads to it. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Registration rates are low for my live webinar. Attendee registration is okay. It's somewhere between 15 and 30%. So I'm using stats to really determine how well it's working. So I have all the stats, but they're highly variable and just not quite sure how to improve it.
So they're landing on an opt-in page, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the opt-in rate on that page?
I do not know what the opt-in rate conversion is on that page.
Well, that might be a good start.
Yeah, that would be a good start. For my live registration, my percent registration of my list is only about 1%. And I have about 5,000 people on my list.
So you're determining out of 5,000 people, how many people end up registered for the event?
Correct.
Okay. So that's like 3 steps removed, probably like it's like there's open rates, click rates, opt-in rates. Like, okay, so we're just going to put like an I don't know here. Show up rate, roughly. So of the people who register, how many of them show live?
Let's see. Somewhere between 12 and 33% for the last few months.
That's a big range. Do you have an average, like roughly? I mean, if not...
Let's call it 22%. So I've been running it live once a month.
Okay.
So there's not a lot to average there.
And it's the same webinar, same positioning every time you run it, right?
Yeah.
And is your list growing significantly like each time, or is it, slowly like...
It's growing. So some social media growth and some ad growth. It's not growing as fast as it used to be because I lowered my ad spend, but it's definitely growing month to month.
Okay. So you're running some ads to the live webinar once a month.
No, my ads right now are all running to a lead magnet.
Okay. Is there a reason they're not going to the live webinar?
I don't feel as confident as I need to be to spend more money. I want to make sure it converts first.
Okay. And then the goal in the webinar is for people to book a call, correct?
Yes.
And so what is that? We'll just call this book call percentage. So of the registrants, percentage-wise, how many are booking a call?
Again, depends on the month. 1 month it was 16%, another month it was 33%. So if I had 15 attendees, I had 5 book a call. So for one of the webinars, I had 15 attendees, 15 live attendees, which was 33%, and 5 booked a call. So that was the 33%. That was the high, and the low was 16%.
Let's just ballpark it like 20%. We'll just put it somewhere in there.
Yeah, let's call it 20%.
Okay. but we're still dealing with pretty low numbers volume-wise, right? Like there's percentages and then there's like actual numbers.
Actual number. And this is why I think there's so much variability in my numbers. There's just such low attendance.
Yeah, the sample size is pretty small, to be honest. And then what is so when you're on the call with someone, what are you selling? What's the price point?
Yeah, so on the call, it's called the Gut Clarity Assessment Call. I'm selling my program, which is the Gut Balance Method. It's an online program, 12 weeks. Price point is $2,497, and it includes some functional lab testing.
Cool. And then close rate on that roughly?
25%-ish.
Okay. So about 25% of people.
Yep, at 1 in 4.
So when I look at this, when I look at any kind of marketing model or any kind of like funnel, I'm always looking at like, where's the constraints, right? Because we can fix all sorts of stuff, but if we're not unkinking the hose, it doesn't really matter. And so right now, like for me, the biggest thing is throughput. How do we get just more volume of people coming through so that we have more confidence in the data? Because that's really what's lacking. It seems like what's lacking right now is the confidence isn't quite there for you to say like, let's turn this sucker evergreen and turn the ads on, right? So yeah, so I guess the one unknown here is the opt-in rate. I mean, you can maybe backtrack and extrapolate that. But the big thing with the live stuff, so let's just look at the difference between live and evergreen. So if we extrapolate a couple of these numbers, so your show up rate on an evergreen webinar is going to be significantly higher. Because essentially what's going to happen, we'll look at this page in a second, is like they opt in and then they'll see the video right away. So I'm not like, just so everyone's clear, like I'm not a fan of pick a time, Thursday at 2, Thursday at 8. It's like when people opt in, they can watch it right on the next page. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you have that, the show up rate is 100%, but what you don't see necessarily as clearly is what's the play rate? What's the number of those people that actually watch the video or the webinar? And let's just call it, just for the sake of simplicity, 50%. And then from that, the book a call, this will be the big one, we call the lead to call book ratio. So the percentage of people booking calls evergreen compared to live is going to drop significantly. So if you're looking, if you're hitting 5%, you're winning the lottery, right? So that booking rate is going to go down dramatically because you have less interaction, it's less live, people can just take off whenever they want, there's less commitment. But what we're making up for really is the fact that everyone, assuming they hit play, can watch it now. So the throughput, like it compensates for the decrease in conversion to booking a call. Does that make sense? Just the difference?
Yeah.
What it really comes down to is, like I understand the value of like running something live to get, some proof of concept to go evergreen, but the numbers change dramatically. I think it's a good starting point to say, okay, well, here's kind of like the best case scenario, right? Like we know that roughly 25% of warm audience is converting. We'll call this, just to be conservative, probably 15% if we're running cold traffic. If people don't know, like, and trust you, they're like, I just saw one of your ads. Why would I pay you $2,500? Right? Like that's a different conversation and a different level of like a conviction and authority. That's a skill that can be developed. But some of these numbers, just so that you're aware, will go down. But what goes up is your freedom, right? So you record this once, it does its thing, etc. So any questions on that kind of breakdown and comparison so far? Is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yep. Okay. So let's have a look at the actual webinar itself. So people opt in. This would be like the version, like this would be like the evergreen version, obviously, right? So they opt in. And just before you hit play, what's the thing you want people to understand as it pertains to bloating, constipation, gut health as they watch this video, as they watch this webinar?
It's that the things that they're trying are throwing spaghetti at the wall and they're not working because they don't have a plan. They're addressing symptoms, not root causes. They're just trying things and hoping it works and not getting to really understand what's going on to fix the thing that's broken, not the thing that they think is broken.
Okay. So the first thing that I noticed was, and if I go back to your main website, so the messaging is aligned, right? It's not like it's very different, which is good. So we have bloating, constipation, gut pain. Is that fairly congruent with the webinar-ish?
Yeah.
So here's the first thing, like very high level, is when people don't, and again, it's hard to know exactly, but like, because we don't know what the data is going to look like with cold traffic here, but generally when people have a low lead to call book ratio, so people are opting in, they're watching the webinar, they're not booking a call, fundamentally, it's that they don't care about it. Like the problem isn't like severe enough for them to be like, oh, I got to take an hour out of my time or 30 minutes out of my schedule. And what if I get sold something? Like we're all thinking that, but what supersedes that is this is a like bleeding neck problem. I have to solve this yesterday. It's like if my kids got kidnapped, I don't care if you're going to sell me something. I got to talk with you about how to get them back. So when I look at things like bloating and constipation, these are two symptoms that definitely are problematic. But in my experience, like percentage wise, fewer people are going to be like, here's my money, let's go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. So we have a client, Brooke, who actually started off. So she works in IBS, and her messaging initially was around constipation, bloating, some kind of like very similar language. And she was getting people watching her webinar that are booking calls, maybe not to the degree that she wanted, but even the people she was speaking with were not really committed to do anything about it. So then we worked with her on her webinar, and we just started like diving into like who she feels she can really help the most. And it came down to those people with urgent diarrhea. So like IBSD. As soon as that happened, like her business took off. So she does north of about 100,000 a month right now. And I'm sharing that because it's a very, very similar market, just different messaging, possibly even a very similar type of solution. Does that make sense?
100%.
Because if you think of the prospect, like someone who's dealing with a bit of bloating, it's uncomfortable, but they can still live with it. Someone who can't even like go for a walk because they're going to shit themselves, it's a different level of pain. So we talk about like bleeding neck problem as opposed to a stubbed toe. And I think just even before we dive into the webinar, that might be something to consider, just like to hit on more of the pain. Is that fair to say?
Yes, 100%. I think my experience I work with a lot of IBS patients and clients and SIBO as well. And their primary issue that I help solve them with is constipation. But it's a delayed problem. It's not, right? So I feel much less comfortable going the IBSD direction, even though that's talking about, going for a walk in the woods and not finding a bathroom.
Yeah. But even, and again, I'm not saying that you have to do that, right? I'm just giving you an example. But if we even look at the difference between constipation and diarrhea, constipation is something that is, it's annoying, right? Like, I haven't gone to the bathroom in 3 days, but it's also not like, I don't think a lot of people are as connected to the problem that creates relative to, I have to run to the bathroom right now, right? There's just like a different level of urgency. And anytime we're dealing with a problem, we want to be addressing a problem that is very, very top of mind aware for the prospects. So that's why things like high blood pressure are very tricky conditions to build coaching programs around, right? It's like, well, I don't feel it. I don't care, right? High cholesterol. Okay, cool. But unless I visibly can feel it, like that's why like acne, stuff like that can be very powerful, or migraines, because people experience the pain of this stuff. So before we dive into that, just like high level, maybe thinking through some of that, what we call like the profitable problem, and it's not that you have to change a lot. It just might start there, right?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So let's play this out a little bit, and I'll just stop at a few parts. So actually, before we do that, so number one, good job on putting the speed here. So there's different ways of looking at this. You can have a page where you have the webinar player itself or the video player itself with no call to action until X number of minutes, right? So you have a delayed call to action. You will get better qualified people by doing that, but you'll also get fewer calls because some people are like, well, how long am I going to be sitting here for? So it's fine if you have this, but the thing I like about this is that you have this speed button, because if you are going to give people the option to maybe scroll, but definitely if they can book a call right away, like I would want to watch that 2X, right? Because I'm like, well, I can take the next step, but let me just kind of like breeze through this. So just so I'm clear, is this what most people would see, or would they see like no player control and no button until a certain amount of time?
This is exactly what they see. This is the page. But I have full control to change anything. Like I can remove the player, I can remove the speed control, I can remove the CTI.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's fine, to be honest. I mean, it's just one of those things where you test, right? Like you might start here, like most of our clients actually do the opposite. So we have no control, and then the CTA pops up when the CTA is made, the offer is made in the webinar. So that might be whatever it is, 20, 25 minutes in sometimes. But again, in this case, theoretically, what should happen is that you will get more calls booked with this setup, because people can book a call right away, and they can also just kind of like scroll through the video, which is fine, right? It's just one of those differences to potentially test or track. Okay, so let's play this out.
Hey there, I'm Erin Horner, and if you clicked on this training, you probably are exhausted from planning your life around your gut symptoms. Maybe you missed important memories, skipped your kid's soccer game.
All right. So what do you notice as you watch this? Does anything come up for you?
I think I'm not jumping right to the pain points. It's a little bit of hesitation. It's not super confident.
Yeah. The other thing too, have you tested a version without you on camera?
Not in this format. I've tested doing live webinars, turning off my camera versus having myself in the corner of the screen with no noticeable change in anything as far as the numbers are concerned. But I have not tested taking me off the camera for the masterclass on demand.
Okay. So the first thing I notice is I can see your eyes are looking at something, right? Like you're following a script or a teleprompter or something. So there's a little brief like disconnection of rapport there. And if that's the case, I would rather just like have slides, to be honest. Like all of our clients, we just have them do slides and voiceover. Because what we found is that, and it's funny because some of them are like, okay, now that I have the basics, now let me do a fancy version with me on camera. Even if it's like just like their head in the corner. I'm like, guys, why do you think we build ugly slides? Like, do you think that we're like lazy? No, it's because they convert better. Every time they test like face on camera, and I've tested this as well, it converts less. And part of the reason is because people are judging all sorts of stuff, right? So right now, if I'm not listening to the audio, I don't know what's being said, right? So I'm looking at you, I'm looking at all sorts of stuff, and that means that my attention's not on the message necessarily, right? So we're distracting people a little bit. So that's the first thing. Now, you could also say, well, I mean, YouTube is face on camera for the most part, which is very true. I do believe there's a lot of value in having face on camera in a world that is less and less trusting. But there is a balance to find, because what I would consider this to be different from like a YouTube video is I would consider this to be a conversion asset. So in a conversion asset, it needs to be a lot more dialed in to make sure, because here's the thing is like 100% of people, this is the only page other than your opt-in page that 100% of people are going to land on. So this is the one opportunity to seize the day. And if we lose them here, the percentage of people who come back and watch the replay or even check the emails goes down dramatically, right? And that's why this video has so much, I don't want to call it gravity, but it really needs to be done properly. And that's why I'm looking at things like, can we at least, whatever you're reading from, you can even test that as just words on a white background as a starting point, right? And that way we're focused a bit more on the message.
Over the next little bit, I'm going to show you 3 reasons that your gut won't cooperate. And more importantly, how to fix it.
Okay, so I like the 3 reasons gut won't cooperate. If we can specify that, that's going to be even more powerful, right? So if we're talking about constipation, I'm just going to close my blinds a bit here. If we're talking about constipation or anything along those lines, how can we use the exact symptoms or moments that they're like, that's exactly what happened to me this morning, right? Because then the more specific you are, the more you're essentially empathizing with that viewer. They're thinking to themselves, man, she knows it's like, how does she get in my head? And that's really important at the early stage of the webinar.
Fix it for good. So get comfortable, grab something to write with, and let's dive in. If you're here, you've probably been living with unpredictable.
So this is good. So you could actually just start this, like you could just start the webinar with that, like this slide deck if you wanted to. What was the thinking behind being on camera first before moving into the slide deck?
Because I wasn't teaching it live, I was trying to create some relatability and show my face and that I'm a real person. Just in the age of AI and disconnection and all that stuff, I was trying to be a human.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's fair. Like I don't think that's going to be a deal breaker. I do think that's a very important consideration moving forward. So that's fine. So if we looked at this as the title slide, so even like the first couple words coming out of your mouth, even if you're on camera, think of it as the hook, like the thing that's going to get people to really like stop in their tracks and pay attention. So bloated, constipated, and fed up, 300 reasons your gut won't cooperate. So like the frustrations or the symptoms there are good. When we're using words like won't cooperate, that's where we want to start like really dialing that in. So like whatever, like could be like, there's a 3-step solution to eliminating bloat, like whatever, just something very, very clear. But again, these are just, nuanced details. And again, I'm sharing all this and we never know how this is going to perform, right? Like we don't have enough data to know where we're starting or what this looks like, as we're running traffic. I'm just kind of like bringing up some things that I notice, obviously, building webinars for a long time.
Predictable digestion for months or even years. Maybe you started avoiding certain restaurants because you don't trust how the food will affect you. Or you've learned to always scope out where the bathroom is before sitting down anywhere.
So this is good.
Perhaps you even started declining invitations to friends' houses because you're embarrassed about your symptoms.
All right. So everything you just mentioned is awesome. I would love those on an individual slide, right? Because like they're very powerful. And as soon as we hear it and see it, then it's going to start to land. So even just breaking those out slide by slide can be really powerful.
Maybe that person who brings their own food to gatherings or who has to leave early from events because your gut just won't cooperate. And I know how isolating that can feel. And you've tried so many things to fix it. Maybe you've taken probiotics, fiber drinks, or digestive enzymes. You've cut out gluten, dairy, sugar, or maybe even all three. You've tried elimination diets, detoxes, and gut healing supplements. You've seen doctors, specialists, or even a naturopath, yet you still don't have answers. And despite all that, your gut is still a mess. I know how frustrating it is to feel like you're doing everything right, yet nothing actually works. Today I'm going to show you exactly why this happens, and more importantly, how to fix it for good. By the end of this training, you'll know exactly why your symptoms keep coming back and what to do instead. I'm going to show you how to finally get rid of your gut symptoms, whether it's bloating, nausea, reflux, diarrhea, or constipation, without having to rely on Miralax, prescription meds, or cutting out all your favorite foods. Because I know you're tired of these symptoms controlling your life. Maybe they forced you to miss your daughter's ballet recital like happened with one of my clients, skip a long-awaited vacation with your family, or maybe cancel a date night you were looking forward to. These moments matter, and your gut issues are stealing them from you. And I get it. You've tried all the things you can think of. Probiotics, fiber, cutting out foods, eating clean, more water, more veggies, more supplements, and the list goes on. But nothing sticks. You feel better for a little while, but the symptoms.
So this is all really, really good. And I think this is one of the most important things that people get wrong is they make it all about themselves and not about the prospect. So the last 2 minutes has been about their frustrations, their problems. You're empathizing with them. So we call this like in our webinar template, we call this like the confirmation. Like you're confirming with them that they're in the right spot. They're like, man, like Erin gets me. This is exactly what I'm going through. Let me keep watching. So this is, right on points. So good job.
Symptoms just keep coming back. I want you to pause here for a moment, and I want you to write down everything you've already tried. Probiotics, elimination diets, cutting out certain foods. Write them all down. I want you to see the full list of what hasn't worked. Now imagine this instead, waking up without worrying about bloating or stomach pain, feeling confident and in control of your digestion, enjoying food again without the stress or discomfort. That's exactly what I'm going to help you with today. When I discovered the mistakes I was making.
Oh, yeah. I think those can be broken down by slide to make them even more impactful. Like you're doing a really good job verbalizing the frustration symptoms and like painting the vision. But if we could match the visuals with that, I think it would land a lot stronger.
And the hidden reasons behind them, I was furious. Why didn't any of my doctors understand this? I wasted years trying to figure it out, and I don't want you to do the same. If you're ready to go from spending hours Googling symptoms, guessing what to try next, and feeling frustrated, to finally having clarity and a real path forward, you are in the right place. Take a moment right now and write this down. How long have you been dealing with these symptoms? Months? Years?
So right now we're almost 4 minutes in and I don't even know why I should listen to you, right? Like you've done a really good job at empathizing. Like, yeah, like she knows what she's talking about. Like what, but who is Erin? Like why should I even listen to her? So I think there's an opportunity very early on in, especially nowadays in anything we do, to drop credibility as soon as possible. So like, hey, you're here because of this. My name's Erin. And then I've helped millions of women over the past couple of years deal with this. Like, even if it's just something as simple as that, just to be like, whatever comes out of your mouth next is going to have a higher degree of buy-in, right? Because the messenger really matters. Like you could be, for all people know, I mean, you could be Dr. Oz or, the version of that that's female. But like if Dr. Oz says this same stuff, it lands differently because of who he is, right? So although you'll probably get into your story a little bit in a moment, which definitely you want to, very early on within the first, 30 seconds, it's like, here's why you have to listen to me. And you don't have to say those exact words, right? But in like pretty much all of my videos, I'm like, hey, my name's Yuri Elkaim. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. For the past 20 years, I've been building 7- and 8-figure businesses in the online health space. You're here because blah, 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 blah. And so now it's like, oh shit, like not just some rando, like this guy is like legit. And then I can dive a bit deeper into my story after we get past what you're doing here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. So you're starting to get into the story here, which is good. I mean, I think these pictures are awesome, right? Because the visuals are great.
I was frustrated and I was so stuck. Like gut issues were running my life and I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. That moment changed everything. I had tried everything I could think of. And when I finally saw a specialist, I thought I'd finally get answers. I had a colonoscopy, OMP stool test, and blood work. But the doctor just said, everything looks fine. Fine? How could everything be fine when I felt so awful? Think about this for a moment for yourself. Have you ever been told everything looks fine when you know something's wrong? Write that down. How did it make you feel? This is important. I realized I wasn't the problem. The approach was. I had spent years throwing supplements, diets, and random solutions at my gut without actually understanding what was going on the inside. That's when I stopped guessing and I started looking for real answers. That night on the couch, something clicked. My symptoms weren't random. They weren't just IBS or something I had to live with. They were signals. My body's way of telling me something deeper was wrong. At the time, I was in grad school studying biomedical engineering. I spent my days analyzing how the body functions as a system, and I couldn't figure out why my own body was falling apart. I had spent years hoping for a magic pill, a detox, the right probiotic, but none of those were addressing the real issue. Here's the mistake I made. I thought cutting out more foods was the answer.
Okay, so this is good. It's all kind of leading into a discovery, right? And then you introduce that, which is really good. So people ask me how long should I talk about my stuff, myself, my story, whatever. It's hard to answer how long, but this is very important because it's not just talking randomly about your story. It's talking about the discovery of the thing you're going to then illustrate in the webinar. So the context is really important because again, it lands so much harder as opposed to, my name's so-and-so, you're discovering some stuff, or you're dealing with some stuff. You've tried all this other stuff. Many years ago, I discovered this thing that's better. Let me talk with you about it. It doesn't land as much, right? So you're doing a good job here, kind of romancing the viewer, if you will, and taking them through that journey. Kind of that rock bottom moments, the discovery you're making. So this is all really good. All right. When I'm looking at any piece of content, always has to have a big payoff, right? What's the big aha, the big insight that even if they don't book a call, they watch this webinar, man, this was amazing. We call that a through line in this context, or another way of looking at this is what's the one core belief you want to break and the new one you want to install? So you mentioned earlier with something they don't have a real plan. Was that what you said?
Mm-hmm. I think more that they're not the problem. The things that they've tried, there's a reason that the things they've tried haven't worked. And it's the approach that they're taking is the wrong approach. I think that's my through line.
All right. So, okay. So you go into the hidden reasons here, or kind of the mistakes or the myths or however we want to describe it. There's one thing that we want to bridge between the story and these, and we call it the real problem. So it's essentially, it's you've already kind of mentioned this. It's saying listen, I thought it was all this stuff. And if you felt similar, it's not your fault. The real problem is this, right? Whatever that is. Now that real problem that's essentially the payoff. But the thing is, I'll give you an example of why this is important. So yesterday I stumbled upon this video on Instagram, just a reel. And the guy's there's a form of cardio that burns fat more than anything else. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. So he's building up the tension. He's it's walking. And I'm got it, I'm out, right? That payoff is kind of going into a webinar and saying, the real problem is you need to drink more water. I'm cool, thanks dude, I'm out of here. So the real problem needs to be packaged in such a way where people are leaning in and thinking to themselves, I've never heard this before. Talk to me, explain, right? So for you, how do you think you could position that real problem so that it's something a little bit more sexy, if you will, than kind of what you had mentioned a few moments ago?
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I did with this new rewrite of the webinar, and I launched my program last February, and I have basically rewrote my webinar about 7 times since. So the most recent version, which is the last 3 months that I've been running this one, I call that problem the hidden gut trap. So throughout this webinar, I talk about how they're stuck in the hidden gut trap. And that's basically just trying things over and over and going to see specialists and not addressing the root causes. So that's the name I gave it. And the traps are the root causes that are the actual problem, not the problem they're trying to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great example of, the name with the hidden gut trap, which I think is pretty cool. The one thing you'll want to be just mindful of is if you're saying you've gone to all these specialists and no one has solved the issue, inherently they may think, well, why would I go to you if you're a specialist and we don't solve the issue, right? Because I'm always looking at anytime I'm making an argument. So when we're in a webinar at this point, we'll call this the content stack, if you will. So we're starting to actually give them content and value at this point. It's teaching how with no how. So they should watch this, and very different from a YouTube video, they should not be getting tactical stuff here, right? You're going to say 2 tablespoons of fish oil and then 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. We're not going to do that stuff here, but we're showing know-how by talking about the what and the why, right? And we want them leaving being how do I do this? And that's when they book a call. So some people see that as not being very valuable, but the value comes from clarity around the problem. So when you talk about the real issue is that you've done everything you can, you're just stuck in the hidden gut trap. And what that looks like is this, this, and this. And then the hidden reasons support that. Like they're the legs on, like if the hidden gut trap is the table, these are the legs that support it. And as we're going through this section of the webinar, I like to think of it as how can I present this like a lawyer instead of a marketer? Like an airtight argument that is not just emotionally charged, but logically bulletproof. So they're like, man, like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C to back that up. Social proof, very lightly on social studies or scientific studies if we need to. And then just using metaphors and analogies like you're doing here to just really allow it to sink in for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm just gonna breeze through some of this stuff. So, and as I'm going through this, I'm always trying to think ahead of like where's the BS radar going off for them. So if you're saying, here's what your doctor is not going to do, here's what your doctor hasn't done for you, I'm thinking of the most skeptical person because rather confirming a suspicion, they're like, yeah, I thought the same thing. We're breaking a belief, in which case we have to replace it with a new belief. And now when we have that new belief installed or we're trying to install it, that person might be like, like prove it to me. So there's skepticism that can come up. And so if we're thinking about, well, if doctor doesn't do this, why should I listen to you? How are you different? What's unique about you? So those objections and skepticisms, I'm always thinking about where they're coming and I'm dealing with that naturally in the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so second reason, gut needs more than healthy habits to heal. So one of the things that, and again, you can kind of put this in if it makes sense. I call this the missing asset. I talk a little bit more about this in the context of a discovery call, but if we're dealing with someone who has done a lot of stuff, right? Because have you spoken with people that are like, I've tried all sorts of stuff. How is this different? Or how do I know this is going to work?
Yeah.
What is one thing about your approach or the way you see gut health that is very unique or would not be understood by the average person you're trying to help? Like something really scientific, like you talked about obviously, being in school for this a long time. I'll give you an example. So if someone's like, hey, Yuri, I've run ads before and they haven't worked. I'm like, dude, welcome to the club. Everyone else says the same thing. Let me ask you this. Do you have server-side tracking installed? And they'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, it's a good thing we're talking then. Because now they're like, what the hell is server-side tracking? But if I were to say, well, have you run different ads? They're like, yeah. I'm like, so now there's no tension. So do you have does something come to mind? And I call that the missing asset, something they're missing, but that just by you dropping it, they're like, I don't even know what that means, but it must be important because if I don't know about it, maybe that's the missing thing to getting better.
Yeah, I cannot put my finger on it. Although what I've noticed in the last couple of years is my clients coming to me have gotten way more educated and they know way more lingo and way more words.
Yep.
So the clients are getting much smarter and much more ahead of where they used to be, I guess. So I'm not sure about that. Like systems-based thinking, functional medicine, these are all become like really big buzzwords that no one cares about anymore.
Yeah, and it's really important when you're dealing with a sophisticated prospect, which is someone who's been through a lot of stuff. Like, yeah, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. They're looking for the one thing that's going to make this different. Because as soon as someone sees something or if they're in a conversation with you and they think to themselves, I know that already, I've done this already, they're out. Right? They're going to get off the call with you. Oh, this sounds great. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to think it over. They send you an email saying, I've decided this isn't right for me. I'm going to go a different direction because they're not telling you the truth. But a lot of times they're like, this sounds like stuff I've done before. So with the missing asset, what I think is a really cool thing to consider is when you're an expert in, human biology, physiology, et cetera, you can go back into the trenches and pull stuff out that no one would like GLUT4 transporters, if we're talking about diabetes, or like something that most people are like, what the hell are you talking about? And you're like, you don't know what that is? Man, okay, it's a good thing we're talking. So that might be something to consider. Like if you're talking about going back to the doctor thing, like, hey, has your doctor, a lot of clients that come to me have gone through similar approaches. They go to their doctor, but in a lot of cases, and you could just bullet them out. Like, has your doctor said this or told you about this? And you want them to be things where they're going to say no, no, and no to. Because all of a sudden that's open loops. And it's like, okay.
Right. Some things I can think of right off the top of my head are like leaky gut, gut microbiome testing.
What specific microbiome testing?
16S or whole genome sequencing.
Is that something that a lot of people are aware of?
No.
Perfect. I don't even know about that. So like, I would say I'm pretty like, I've been in this space for 25 years. If I don't know what the 16S test is, a lot of other people wouldn't. So, but again, like if they've gone through all sorts of gut stuff and you're in conversations with them and they're like, I've never heard of that, that might be something interesting to consider. Because now it's like, and these have to be congruent with what you do in your work. All of a sudden it differentiates you, right? And here's the cool thing is by using missing assets, you show your expertise without saying you're an expert. Just naturally, you're basically saying like, instead of saying all these people suck, you're just like, they didn't do this? Like, oh my God. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So you're poking holes in previous approaches just by introducing something they're not aware of that makes all the difference.
Okay. Okay. My brain is going off now. Like butyrate and resistant starches, and there's lots of things there.
Totally. Yeah. And then even with resistant starches, are they from cold potatoes or rice or whatever, right? Like you can even go to the level, like just so deep on this, right? Like it's just, it's interesting. Okay. I just want to finish with a call to action here. So, listen, the call to action is like book a call. This is for you. Okay. So if you're struggling with this, you're ready to stop guessing, you're ready to invest your time. So these are all really good. Not for you if you're looking for a quick fix or already made changes, you prefer generic protocols. The only thing, again, like it's two sides of the same coin. Like, you're ready to invest your time and energy. Like if you're getting people that are not willing to invest or they're dead broke, it's like, listen, as much as I want to help everyone, if you're really doing have food stamps or like you're not ones who take care of your own health with your own investment, like whatever, probably not a good fit. You can touch on that as you're talking about this here, but this stuff is fine, right? That's fine. So I think like the big thing here, like all of this mechanically is fine. Like I think the messaging is on point. My gut is telling me based on what I'm seeing here, no pun intended with my gut, but I think it's high level. It's solving a much deeper, I have to solve this now type of problem, right? So again, like diarrhea versus bloating. I'm not saying you have to do diarrhea, but just like something like that. That's where it starts. The call becomes a lot more compelling when it's like, I need to solve this problem yesterday. And then I think in the content, in the way that it's presented, just making sure that we have a really strong, real problem of like, this is the hidden reason you're not getting the results you want. It's not your fault. It's this thing you're not aware of. Let me break it down for you. Here's why, Drop in some of those missing assets, 1, 2, or 3 of them. All of a sudden it opens loops and it gets people out of the, I know that already, to like, I've never heard this. Maybe this is the thing. And I'll just finish with this, Erin. Like the most important thing our marketing needs to do for people is give them hope. And we can't give hope if it's not new. So novelty equals hope. So what I mean by that is if someone says, I've seen this already, that's the opposite of novelty. If I've seen this already, I'm not going to do it because it's like, that didn't work. But if it's something new, then it's like, maybe this is the thing. This is the thing that I've been missing. That's the key to making good marketing work, especially in this context. We have to quote unquote, string people along where we're continually opening loops, building tension so that the call is the only way they get the solution. Because the real way to help people is not by giving them protocols in a webinar, it's to actually work with them, right? So the clarity comes from being able to articulate that journey for them. So they're like, man, this is what I'm looking for. I didn't even know this. Here we go. Helpful?
Super helpful.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. So for all of you guys watching and listening, hope you guys found this valuable. There's always one thing to implement that can be a little bit better. Erin, thanks for opening up the kimono, allowing us to have a look at your webinar, and hope these suggestions make a big difference for you. And if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to watch the next video where I'll walk you through our $1 million health coaching roadmap. If you're a health expert, coach, or therapist who wants to grow $1 million plus business without the grind or guesswork, you're going to want to check that out. We have a free scorecard where you can audit your business, and then I'll show you exactly how to fill the gaps to improve your score and thus the impact you're creating, the money you're making, and the freedom you're living with.